Hello, friends. Um, I'll say this announcement before I get into our practice tonight. There's no Wednesday night Sangha next week. So um, there will be an email reminding you that there is no Sangha next week, just in case you forget. Um, that's already been programmed. And other announcements, just check the link below if you're practicing with us on YouTube for the link to the upcoming daily life retreat, which will be in Guelph. You can read more about it. It's too long to explain. Uh, please check the link. And if you're up in the Muskoka area, I'll be teaching up there on Monday, in Bracebridge, actually, on Monday, August 18th. So if you're up that way, search Muskoka mindfulness and you'll find it. Right. Still debating with myself, so I'm just going to go ahead with how I usually do things rather than continuing this inner debate. So I'm going to start with a little talk, a little theme, and then we'll have our guided sit together. This is coming from a sutta in a collection of suttas called the Kudaka, which means a collection of little texts, like small suttas. And thanks, Barb. And this one is in part of that collection, and then it's a smaller part of this collection called the Udanas, which means exclamations. And so this means that somewhere in this sutta, in this teaching from the Buddha, there's an exclamation, a real proclamation, a strong statement that he exclaims. Uh, those are all side notes. I'm kind of be cross-referencing two translations of the sutta. And it's one I've taught about before, and you very likely have heard of before, because it's a great teaching and a good story. And though you may have heard of this one, it's about the blind people and the elephant. So some of you will be like, huh? I know that one. And I wanted to revisit it for obvious reasons. All the suttas need revisiting, and all the Dharma needs revisiting over and over and over and over again, for one. But this one is about the futility of arguing about our views and opinions with other people that hold very different views and opinions. That's what this teaching is actually about. And it starts with these different communities that are actually Brahmins and wanderers and contemplatives of, but from different sects, SECTS, different communities, yes. And they they keep arguing and debating about the big questions about the cosmos and about is the cosmos infinite or is it finite or is it neither? They talk about life after death and is that a thing or not a thing, and is the Buddha going to be reborn or not? And they're these kind of, is the soul the same thing as the body, or is it something other, or is it not the body? All these things are debating and debating and debating, and really arguing harshly, not just like having a conversation or a theoretical, philosophical sharing. They're arguing, quarreling, disputing, and wounding one another with weapons of the mouth. In another sutta, I'm just reminded of the Buddha said that we're all born with an axe in our mouth, the tongue, where we can cause a lot of harm. It's in one of the teachings about wise and kind and truthful speech, and how harmful our words can be. And so these folks who are practitioners and contemplatives and are still hooked in this habit, in this conditioning, where they're arguing, quarreling, and wounding one another with weapons of the mouth. Um, and so they go on back and forth like this for some time. And then eventually somebody says, time to go visit the Buddha and get some help, get some assistance, some clarity on this. Uh, and so they come to the Buddha and explain what's been happening. And so the Buddha shares this beautiful story, a kind of a once upon a time there was a king, and it's a story about a king in this same area where they were all meeting and debating and hurting each other with their words. And so he tells this story about this king. The king says to his attendant, let's see, who does he say it to? Doesn't matter, to his attendant, go and please gather up all the people in the community here who have been blind since birth. So they have never had eyesight. Uh, that gathering happens, they're all collected and brought to the king. And then the king says, now please bring an elephant and um, have show the blind people an elephant, as you say, Your Majesty. And so the man shows the blind people the elephant. And so as he's gathering this group of people around the elephant, um, they put their hands on the elephant, and so some are feeling the elephant's head, and the the helper says, "This blind people is an elephant." As they're touching it, this is an elephant. Some people, of course, are feeling the elephant's ear. Someone else feels the tusk and the trunk, and someone else the body, the elephant's foot, the elephant's hindquarters, the elephant's tail, and then the tuft at the end of the elephant's tail. And for each one, he's saying, this is what an elephant is like, or this is an elephant. And so after they all have that experience, then the king goes to the blind people and says, have you seen the elephant? Or have you been shown the elephant? There's a better translation. I'm just going back and forth between these. Um, and they all say, yes, yes, we have been shown the elephant. And he says, okay, tell me, what is an elephant like? Of course, you can guess, but you may have also heard this before. So the blind people that had felt and been shown the elephant's head say, the elephant, Your Majesty, is just like a jar, like a huge container, a big jar. Those that felt the ear said it's like a winnowing basket, a shallow, mm, big basket. Those that felt the tusk said it's just like a plowshare. Um, and the trunk, it's like the pole of the plow. Uh, those who were shown the elephant's body said, Your Majesty, an elephant is just like a granary, like a storage bin, storage room. Um, the foot is like a post. Uh, the elephant, those that felt the hindquarters said, Your elephant, Majesty, is just like um, a pestle and no, like a mortar, and the tail was like a pestle, like a mortar and pestle. And those that felt the tuft of the tail said, Your elephant, Majesty, is just like a broom. And then they all started fighting with each other. What are you talking about? I felt it myself. It was my direct experience. It's totally just like whatever, fill in the blank, whatever part of their experience. And they started fighting like that so much to the extent that they started actually hitting each other with their fists. It got physically violent as well as arguing and yelling and calling names and whatever else. And then here's where the Buddha then exclaims from story. Well, before that, he says, it's the same way with these wandering monks and ascetics and um, recluses that were arguing. They are doing the same thing as the blind people feeling the elephant. And he concludes with this exclamation. Let's see, mm, with regard to these things, they're attached. They are deeply attached to their own views. They, people who only see one side of things, engage in quarrels and disputes. So in this sutta in particular, he's speaking about the recluses and the Brahmins who are only seeing their side of things and how when they become attached to their views, they are only seeing their one side of things, then they are engaging in quarrels and disputes. And it's interesting, just today, someone was telling me something that they heard from someone else about a dispute that had happened between two longtime friends, like best buds, always doing stuff together, their families, and and now they don't speak to each other. Something happened. And I'm like, don't forget, you're just hearing one side of the story. Don't share that with anyone else because you don't know the whole story. There was a couple things that happened today. There was another one. What was it? Yeah, it was something that happened in a court proceeding, but it just happens all the time through your day and of course, obviously, on a global scale, we can see this is happening um, with actual physical violence and lots of violent words, and certainly online so much. Different examples are just flitting in. And it's like with the elephant story, it's not like that was just their idea. Well, I think is what they actually, it was their direct experience. It was an embodied experience. It was like their truth, right? They actually had that direct experience of this is what I'm experiencing, and they gave me the name elephant. This is an elephant. So it's not like it was just an idea in their heads. And so even when we have a direct experience of something, this teaching is about perceptions and how we all are just perceiving our little window all the time. And even our little window is not a clear window. It comes with all of our conditioning and privilege and trauma and our our view of things is also conditioned. But how deeply we hold to our views and attach to our views and fight for them and argue with people and quarrel and good Lord, hopefully, hopefully, I mean, that's bad enough. Um, and how helpful it is. I'm sure you all do this in different ways, right? When hmm, somebody's speeding or zigzagging around it through the traffic, and your like first impulse might be something unpleasant that I shouldn't say on a YouTube channel. And then I try to rephrase it like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. They could just be blank, or maybe someone's in labor in the back seat, maybe. And just try to be like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. This is just my little view. I mean, that's an example where it can be causing harm to other people, so maybe it's not the best example, but so many times everybody has their own worldview. And we might come together because we have some shared commonality of view and values and practice, right? But even so, each one of us is coming from a completely different experience of life. And and so you can kind of strip away a lot of stuff and and then I sometimes am left with the question, well, what is true? Would I say nothing is an absolute truth? Probably times in my life when I said that. I would not say that anymore because there are, in my view, some absolute truths of the Dhamma that all things are impermanent. Yeah, it just is. I'm not going to argue about it though. These these are the characteristics of all things. And all things are vastly, deeply, beyond conception interconnected, conditioned, not separate. And the truth of dukkha and the ending of dukkha. These three characteristics of all things are pretty much all I hold to be true. Everything else is views and opinions and perspectives. And there's probably some people that would say that even those three things that I'm calling truths, that the Buddha called truth, characteristics of all things, somebody I'm sure out there would argue otherwise. Would they? I guess so. Probably yes. Yeah. But I wouldn't argue about it, and I certainly wouldn't come to blows about it. It's just like, that's okay. Okay. What things do we argue about? What things do we really dig our heels in? And can we loosen it up a little bit and just see, oh, that's my perspective. That's like I'm just touching the ear. That's I only know this much. That's such a great thing to say. I only know this much. It's also a great thing to say, I don't know. That's that's been a practice because I do. I do have strong opinions. My friend Patty's laughing there in the background, but I've have gotten better at saying I don't know. I don't know. It's a great thing to practice, just saying I don't know. That was going to come back to haunt me, isn't it? Hmm. I think this is a sweet teaching about this elephant and the blind people, and it's such a helpful reminder. Like, what am I seeing? I'm just seeing this much. That's all. Am I going to fight someone about it? No. Could explain, well, this is what I've experienced. This is how it is for me. What's it like for you? Well, isn't that a great question? What's it like for you? Tell me about what you've experienced. Oh my goodness. And I can, as our world is becoming more and more fractured and divisive and us and them, this teaching, I think, is has a lot of depth, a lot of wisdom. What's it like for you? Can I even hear that? Can I even open to hearing, oh, your whole worldview has been like this? Mm. This just opens up so much possibility for us to find some middle path together and some compassion and some creative ways forward. Yeah. All right. Hmm. And I'll also put the link to the sutta down below in the YouTube recording. And here in I'll pop it here in the chat as well. It's called the Sectarians or the Tittha Sutta. Um, and I can find the link for it if you're here in the Zoom room. Uh, I think that's all. Yeah. So let's let go of our strong attachments to our views and perspective and just see it for what it is so that we can meet each other in this experience. All right, let's have our practice now. Gonna have some water. Hmm. So as you tune into your own body, heart, mind, and just see what you need for this practice, if you're practicing this evening, or maybe you're practicing with us at another time. Do you need to lay down or practice standing, sitting, walking? See if you need any other supports that help you stay upright and wakeful and as much ease as possible. See if you need any other movements or stretch or sighing breaths as you gradually invite yourself into stillness. If you're doing a moving practice like walking meditation, it's more of an inner sense of stillness. And then start to settle down and through and around the body. feeling the muscles of the face, feeling if there's any tension there that isn't needed right now or that could soften a little bit. And then feel into the muscles across the neck and shoulders. Letting the bones settle down. Seeing if it's helpful to take a few slightly deeper breaths to release any tension that isn't needed in the chest or the back, the ribs, the belly. Relaxing the hands. Feeling the weight and heaviness, the width of the pelvis. Inviting grounding through the legs and feet and hips. As you continue relaxing and grounding, settling awareness through the body, we'll also invite the feeling of uprightness of our values, our ethics, especially, well, it's always relevant, but this teaching tonight is definitely about wise speech and about not causing harm. So it can be a sleepy time of evening to be practicing for some folks. To see if you need to draw a little bit of energy up, brighten up your posture. Some people practice with the eyes slightly open to bring in a bit of light. And feeling into what anchor will be most supportive for your practice tonight. If you're in an environment where there's lots of background sounds happening around you, you might choose mindfulness of hearing as your anchor. It's still an embodied present moment practice, just noticing these vibrations of sounds coming and going. Or you might choose a different embodied sensation, perhaps like the breath. If you're using the breath as your anchor, it can be helpful to narrow the attention to one part of the body and just feel the sensations of breath coming and going at that spot. Could be the center of the belly, center of the chest, or at the nostrils. Whatever feels most accessible for you. And after you've chosen your anchor, just turn up the dial of brightness, of curiosity, feeling the whole experience. And as attention moves away from the anchor and that's noticed in awareness, we gently begin again, over and over. Allow yourself the gift of cultivating this calm and yet awake awareness, present moment, understanding that this present moment that we're directly experiencing is just a little sliver of a view. If there's a lot of sleepiness or restlessness, dullness or agitation, you might need to turn up the attention on your anchor a little bit more, a little more brightness. If you're using the breath as your anchor, feel the beginning moment of each breath, the length of the breath, the beginning of the exhale and its length, the whole breath, cultivating calm, wakeful awareness. If you're using sound as your anchor, noticing the beginning moments of sounds, their length, their ending, the spaces. In these last few minutes, we might also notice the insights of these characteristics that we mentioned. Whatever is being known in this moment is arising and passing, and is caused by infinite causes and conditions, interconnected. And nothing to be clung to. And the Buddha exclaimed, with regard to these things, they're attached, deeply attached to their own views. People who only see one side of things engage in quarrels and disputes. May we continue to cultivate calm, awake awareness so that we can see when we've become attached to our little perspective of just touching the elephant's tail. And can we continue to develop our practice of cultivating curiosity and kindness and wise speech? May all beings everywhere be free from dukkha. Hmm. Thank you for practicing with us and revisiting or hearing first time this wise teaching of Dhamma. And all we can do is take care of our own acts, the tongue in our mouth, and try not to cause more harm. Yeah, so thanks for practicing with us and check the links below. And there won't be a Sangha on here next Wednesday. But if you're in the Muskoka area, I'll also put the link because somebody has kindly shared it here in our chat for the Sangha in Muskoka. I'll be teaching there next Monday. Thanks for being with us, and we'll return on the 27th.